Max K asks, is anyone right about politics? Ayn Rand? It kind of depends what you mean. Like, do you want an actual politician? The best politician was Edmund Burke. Do you want a living politician? Lots of living politicians are right about some things, but not everything. And none of them are top-tier philosophers. Politics mirrors society. People get the kind of politicians that they want. Not entirely and perfectly, but in general. You're not going to have politicians that are way better or way worse than large groups of people in the society. People aren't ready for better ideas. They don't understand enough to appreciate better ideas. They need to learn how to think more before they could want a politician like Ayn Rand. People don't even want Ann Coulter as a politician. Her books are popular, but if she actually tried to be a politician, she wouldn't get that far. Everything comes down to ideas, and politics is not the best vehicle for discussing ideas and educating people. So politics doesn't really matter. It's just a side effect, a consequence of how much philosophical education has taken place, how good people's moral values are, how good at thinking they are, etc. And then politics just is a result that happens as a consequence of the stuff that actually matters. That's a broad approximation, but it's basically the right way to look at it. Like, what happens in politics is caused by other stuff. The other stuff is what matters. The other stuff is where people should put their attention and try to improve things. Part of the other stuff is political philosophy. If people understood political philosophy more, then politicians should be able to make short liberal statements and be understood. Like, the more background knowledge your audience has, then the more you can fit into a soundbite. And the more knowledge the audience has, the more appealing good ideas are, because they'll understand them more and see the value. And when someone's just ridiculously wrong, they're not going to get votes if the voting population actually understands what's going on and what the ideas mean and what the consequences of different policies would actually be. And for people to understand political philosophy, it really, really helps if they understand some stuff about reason, about how to judge ideas, how to deal with criticism, how to think with principles instead of just concretes. So I think a more important question is anyone right about philosophy? And a few people are, but not many. And if you take like important pieces of philosophy just individually, it's still hard to find many people who understand much about them. Like, it could be liberalism, it could be Popperian epistemology, it could be rejecting junk science. For each of those issues, not many people understand it well. Even something like why minimum wage laws are bad is not that well understood by that many people. There's plenty of people that oppose minimum wage laws, but most of them don't actually understand it very well. Lots of political issues, such as minimum wage laws, are actually really, really easy if you have the right background knowledge. Like, it's that the issue itself is basically trivial, and the only issue is the background knowledge that determines how you think about it. So like, once you actually dealt with the other stuff, things like understanding voluntary interactions for mutual benefit, like the concept of it's okay to offer someone a trade and they can take it or not take it depending on whether they think it's good, then minimum wage is easy. Or if they understood price controls in general, minimum wage is easy because it's just one instance of a price control. It controls the price of labor and therefore has the usual consequences such as causing shortages or unused capacity. Controls on pricing prevent reaching a proper equilibrium. And also, they just plain prevent some interactions where both parties think they would have mutual benefit. There's actual issues in politics that would require like thought and debate and discussion once people had the right background knowledge. But there's also some of the issues would just sort of go away. Once the background knowledge gets set up, then you'll be able to get a better sense of which problems in politics are actually in the field of politics and thought about politics is required to deal with them, versus which ones are just completely a consequence of something else, and there isn't any significant political problem there. Like with minimum wage, it's just economic ignorance. There's no actual political issue to it. It's just people who don't understand economics get it wrong. There is a political issue to the motivation for minimum wage laws. Like the reason people are tempted by it. There's some political issues there relating to how people look at poverty, how people look at failure, how people look at neediness and victimhood, and how people look at the responsibility to your neighbor. But all of those things are just consequences of one's view on collectivism, altruism, and other philosophical issues in the background behind politics.